The fights in Shaman King are not normal fights. Yes, they have spirits infusing with the shamans, whether it's integrating with them or integrating with the shaman's choice of weapon to form an oversoul, such as the Bicento with Ren or the Harusame with Yo. On the surface, the fights in Shaman King are fun and a joy to watch, whether you're watching it in the 2001 anime, the new 2021 anime, or even reading through the manga. It's always fun to see two shamans battling it out. But what I have noticed within the shaman fights is how there is a deeper meaning behind the fight itself. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm Shady, the tribal chief of the shaman tribe. And today I'm going to be talking about the inner meaning behind the fight between Yo and Ren in the first round of the shaman tournament. Yo and Ren have one win and one loss so far in the tournament, which means when the Great Spirit decided for both of them to fight, whoever loses will be knocked out of the shaman tournament. So the stakes are high when both of them have their rematch in the first round of the shaman tournament. Yo just had his training from the mouth of the Netherworld, that cave that's near his hometown, after his loss to Faust, because he found out that Ren will be his next opponent, who will be a tougher opponent than Faust, so he has to train up to get stronger, which he did. If I compared the two fights between Yo and Ren so far, it can be summarized in two words: confidence and anger. In the first fight, Ren was the confident one, dominating Yo throughout the fight, laughing at him at times, and in all honesty, he should have beaten Yo in that fight. His confidence was getting too high, which turned that confidence into arrogance. And as a result of this mistake, this gave Yo a chance to get back into the fight, where he learned 100% integration with Amidomaru, which inevitably beat Ren. In the second fight, it's reversed. Yo is the confident one, whilst Ren was the one on the edge. In chapter 55, Ren makes the intention to kill Yo now, otherwise he will be a threat later on, which is why he is on the edge and was constantly screaming throughout the fight. But in the same chapter, Ren also notices that there's something different about Yo. He is more confident now. Just like how Piccolo noticed how Gohan was more confident when he made his return as Ultimate Gohan, when he fought Majin Buu, a little Dragon Ball Z reference for all you Dragon Ball Z fans out there. This fight is the eye-opening fight for Ren, just like how Yo's fight with Faust was the fight that awakened Yo and gave him the realization that he has to train up to get stronger. Silver calculated that Yo's mana level is 270, whilst Ren is at 350. So on paper, Ren should dominate and beat Yo, but this is what it means to be in a shaman fight. It's not about how strong and powerful you are. Although that does play a part, it's all about the calmness of the mind and how focused you can be, to not let anger cloud your judgment. Ren is the favorite here. His mana level is higher to prove that fact even more, but towards the end of the fight, they ended up nearing the same level of power. And this is solely because Ren's blind rage clouded his mind, not seeing that Yo's oversoul was broken at least 7 times, as stated by Yo himself in chapter 60. Ren even admits in chapter 64 that he feels pure brute force is enough for him to beat his enemies, which is the reason why he pushes himself to the extreme in his fights. That's why you see him in this fight constantly screaming. But in contrast, we see Yo never getting frustrated or angered in the slightest. His oversoul broke 7 times. Can you imagine if Ren's oversoul broke that many times? How much more angry he would get? Yo shows confidence throughout the fight, one of which is when he let Amidomaru take the lead in chapter 60. Amidomaru was telling him when to dodge Ren's attacks and when to launch a counterattack to push Ren back. Yo says in chapter 59 that the lesson he learned from his fight with Faust, as well as him training in the Netherworld cave, is that in that fight, he pushed himself and became a person that he wasn't. He wasn't being his true self, which is something that he doesn't ever want to repeat again. Meaning, he has to be confident in his own self and his own ability, as well as Amidomaru, to make sure he never falls into anger again. Just like how he fell to anger in his fight against Faust, which is why we see him so chilled out in this fight. It's as if he's personally teaching Ren how to keep calm and carry on. That is the inner meaning behind this fight. Yo's calmness versus Ren's anger. Before this fight occurred, Ren was a bloodthirsty killer. He didn't care who he hurt, but after this fight, he learns. Even being locked up for 10 days in the dungeon when he failed to beat his dad when he returned home. In chapter 70, he explains to June that everything will all work out, indicating to us that he genuinely learned a few lessons from Yo during their fight. And he does change. After this fight, he doesn't scream like a nutbag after this fight. Well, at least nowhere near as much. Ren says in chapter 64, he knew he couldn't beat Yo, as Yo is like the wind that evades brute force, which showed Ren that he doesn't need to use brute force anymore. There's other ways of fighting. Before this fight, he would have never been seen with anyone. But after this fight, for the next round of the Shaman tournament, he chooses his partners and who will be in his team. The Ren before this fight would never do that. This fight changed his whole outlook on life. That's how important this fight is to Ren. It's important for Yo as well, as he shows Ren through this fight how to release the shackles of his anger created by his family. But this is more important for Ren than it is for Yo. In chapter 68, Ren says he wanted to kill everyone because it was drilled into him that humans are bad. But after this fight, he says he wants to end the cycle of hatred. He wasn't saying this before the fight, only after the fight. He is saying this because Yo opened his eyes to the fact that maybe not all humans are bad. He went from wanting to end all of humanity to helping all of humanity. Straight after this fight, he did a complete U-turn with his life goal as well. Look at the impact this one fight had. It's amazing writing. That's why I say the fights in Shaman King are not normal. There's hidden layers, messages, and meanings behind the fight which needs to be talked about. Guys, which fight do you want me to dissect next? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to the Shaman Tribe.